Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to our today's webinar. My name is Filip Černý. I'm going to be your host today, and we're going to look together at ransomware lockdown and how you can secure your network against attacks. Before we jump into the content, let me just go over the housekeeping rules real quick. In the navigational panel, you have a question mark icon. This is there for you to submit any questions you might have throughout the webinar. And I just got a feedback that some people can't hear me. Yeah, looks like this audio is working now. Apologies. Okay. Uh, so the housekeeping rules. On your navigational panel, you have a question mark icon, which allows you to submit any questions. We have a dedicated time for questions at the end of the webinar, so feel free to submit any questions you might have. This webinar will be recorded, and you will receive a follow-up email with the recording as well. So that's for the housekeeping rules, and let us now jump into the agenda. So as the topic suggests, we're going to talk deeply about ransomware, what is double and triple extortion, examples of ransomware attacks. We're going to look at some trends and the current numbers. And lastly, we're going to see how you can protect against ransomware attacks and some type of solutions like a network detection and response and what their benefits might be. So let's jump in. I can imagine that many of you who are listening to the sessions have probably heard about ransomware attacks in one form or another. But let me just go over a little bit of an evolution of ransomware attacks. So when you suffer from the ransomware attack, the original ransomware attack basically means that your files are encrypted and you, or basically the victim, needs to pay to regain access. Ransomware attacks are evolving, and today this is not the case, or it's not just the case. The next step in the evolution of ransomware is the data theft, which means that attackers doesn't just encrypt your data, but they also steal them as well and threaten to release that sensitive information on the internet, basically forcing you to make the payment, basically pay the ransom. That is what we mean by double extortion. But still, it continues. Ransomware gangs are organized groups, and they just keep figuring out new ways how to put more pressure on you to force you to pay. And the triple extortion basically means that they are going to launch, for example, some kind of denial of service attacks to bring your public website down, basically causing troubles even in your operations. And also because sometimes in a case when they can manage to steal your data, they can also harass your contacts, your customers, your business partners, basically threatening your business relationships, and again putting another pressure to make you pay the ransom. So this is the evolution, how the ransomware proceed. And let's have a closer look on ransomware attack that CNA Financial Corporation suffered from in early 2021. So I was actually looking for what was the highest amount paid for throughout the ransomware for the ransomware attack. And actually, the highest number I could find out was this year in 2024, around $75 million. So this cyber attack for CNN Financials was the second largest one that is documented, at least. So what happened? Well, during a fake browser update, the network got breached, and the CNA Financial Corporation, basically an insurance, which is the largest commercial insurance group, insurance company in the United States, was breached. And during the breach, basically 75,340 individuals' data and basically contact information got leaked outside of the corporate network. Majority of those contacts information were employees information, but 10% of those contacts still were customer information. So they estimated that more than 15,000 systems were encrypted. But with the help of the FBI and with the help of the FBI, basically, none of the data were leaked outside of that compromised server where the attackers managed to exfiltrate the data. So this is basically the bright side, that none of this data were shared to on the dark web, let's say. But still, what the attackers did, they managed to contact all of those 75,000 stolen contacts and send them the information that the company is under attack. So you can imagine what kind of panic, let's say, this can cause when you just suddenly receive a text message saying that your company or your business partner is under an attack. So that is an example how ransomware attacks can be really an unpleasant occurrence, let's say. But there are still many more examples. If I was just looking to find a couple more, and for example, many of you probably remember the famous WannaCry ransomware cyber attack that cost the National Health Service in the United Kingdom more than 92 million pounds, and during which attack they managed to cancel 19,000 appointments. So you can imagine how inconvenient this is, not only to the medical professionals, but also to the customers who basically suffer from multiple or various health issues that they need a remedy for. And what I also wanted to mention, that the ransom payment is not just the only cost associated with the ransomware attack. You need to account for the operational downtime, the resources needed to resolve the attack. So the ransom payment is actually just a tip of the iceberg. One of the also most famous another ransomware attacks was the Colonial Pipeline hack that basically that cost 4.4 million in ransom to the hacker group. But with the help of the FBI and the governmental force, they actually managed to get more than half of the money back. And lastly, as we can also see, ransomwares, it's not just about money, but they are also causing problems with and influences within government and national elections. So this is, for example, a case which happened to Costa Rica, where they had to declare national emergency, for example. So that's to a couple of examples, but let's look more in some trends and numbers where we are with ransomware in the current year. So I found quite a staggering statistics that ransomware payments exceed 1 billion in the last year. And what it sort of confirms that if you look at the figures from the previous years, that the dip in the ransomware payments in the 2022, where it was a little bit over 500 millions, was just anomaly within otherwise rising trend, I would say. So in 2020, the overall payments were a little over 900 millions. 2021, it rose to 983. Then we had the dip in 2022, but we unfortunately continued the steady race to the higher numbers and exceeded 1 billion last year. We can also see the use of artificial intelligence tools fueling the criminal enterprise. I'm sure many of you have seen some sort of examples of voice cloning or deepfake videos that is available to basically anyone but hackers. And we also noticed that there is an existence of hacker-developed large language models. So basically, imagine ChatGPT for criminals, for hackers. And with that, we also see continued growth in ransomware as a service. Uh, Another issue, or basically trends, that is fueling the rise in ransomware attacks is the geopolitical tensions that we can see today. So, because of that, critical infrastructures are targeted: manufacturing, healthcare, and energy. Manufacturing was actually the top vertical that suffered more than double the ransomware, double the amount of ransomware attacks as the second as the second vertical below. And another trend that we see is the rise in double and triple extortion, which we've explained in the beginning. Um, One study that I found provided by Semperis shows quite interesting statistics. It was a global study where they basically petitioned 900 IT and security professionals. And let's look together what the study found. 83% of responding organizations were victims of ransomware attacks in the past 12 months. So the attacks are there, and majority of the organizations are under the attack, even when we notice in the news only the tip of the iceberg. 70% of ransomware victims were attacked multiple times. So when it's basically quite 3 out of 4 cases. If you are under attack, there is a high chance that you're going to be attacked again. And 78% of the victims who paid ransom, 78% victims paid actually the ransom. So that's quite a staggering statistics. And out of those 78%, 32%, so 1/3 of those paid 4 or more times, which is just a staggering number. And unfortunately, 35%, so again, more than a third of the victims who paid for the ransom actually failed to receive decryption keys or were unable to recover their files and assets. So what this shows us is that the ransomware threat is real and ever occurring. We need to stay vigilant. We need to be protected, and most definitely we cannot submit to the ransom. We, the United States government would say, we don't negotiate with terrorists, so we don't, we shouldn't be paying the ransom, and rather invest in more security and cybersecurity measures. One trend that also is trending up is the re-extortions, which the statistics confirm. So it makes common sense. So victims who paid once are likely to pay again, especially if the attacker owns the sensitive data. So what's happening when your organizations, your files get breached? They can reappear on the dark web, and the data can be shared through other organizations, basically other gang or hacker groups, and those data can then reappear weeks, months, or years apart, and basically trying to victimize you again. And why do attackers re-victimize their victims? Well, the cycle of re-extortion is highly profitable, as you can imagine, but it also makes sense that if as an attacker they have high egos, if you got in, you would want to make most out of your investment of times and efforts, and you would also want to test that they were actually able to patch the systems and basically secure their environment. But unfortunately, the lack of skilled personnel and budget constraints is something that doesn't allow us to be as quick as the attackers, I would say, and that's why we see these numbers. If we look at the ransomware victims by country, I think that this comes to no one as a surprise that the United States is the main shareholder in this statistics. I would say almost half of the attacks comes to the United States, because this is a digital landscape, and basically the countries that suffer the most are the most developed. But we can see that the Western Europe is also behind, with United Kingdom, Germany, and France. So What can you do? How can we break the cycle, as to say? Well, first, organizations need to invest in comprehensive security measures. And if you've been breached, you need to conduct thorough post-incident analysis. You need to understand how the breach occurred, what vulnerabilities were exploited, so we can make sure that it doesn't happen again. You need to implement the long-term strategies so to enhance your cybersecurity posture. This means regular security audits. This means continuous threat monitoring, and this means also the employee training, so you can raise the skill. And of course, you need to have a robust incident response plan in place, so you know when an attack happens, you have a process that you can follow up. So this means you can also address all weaknesses you have, and for example, you invest in a zero trust strategy. What I would like to talk to you a little bit more today is the continuous threat monitoring. So in Progress, we have a solution which we called Flowmon, and you can think of Flowmon as your AI-powered network security analyst that is available at your fingertips, that tirelessly monitors your network 24/7, analyzing traffic patterns, identifying potential threats in real time. And because of that, you can have a powerful detection, so you can basically distill thousands of alerts into a few security incidents and identify those early indicators of compromise and stop the attack at its infancy before it causes further damage. It allows you for smart prioritization, so you know at the first glance what is most important, what you should focus on, and it allows you and built-in experience, so you know basically when an event is detected, you can understand easily what does it mean and what should be the next step. And it allows you to automate your analytics and be more flexible and more secure. So if we look closer into the ransomware attack stages, um, we can actually look at it through the lens of MITRE ATT&CK framework. So for those who haven't heard about MITRE, MITRE was organizations that spun out of MIT, I believe, and it's funded by those three-letter agencies like CIA, FBI, and so on. And what MITRE does is it provides a blueprint or a vocabulary, maybe, how an attacker carries out an attack. And we can see it here that there is a multiple different stages that attacker needs to go through to carry out an attack. So from, once you, let's say you get your foot in the door, and you gain initial access into an organization, you need to, as an attacker, you need to go through a discovery phase, figure out what kind of devices, servers are around you, and you can start building your way in. So first through credential access. Once you get your let's say once you get further in, you can then move laterally and spread to other system. Once you identify some, let's say data that can be exploited, you move to a collection phase, meaning that you pull all the data to that compromised device and you start exfiltration, basically communicating to command and control server, for example. And once you have managed to steal the data, exfiltrate it out of the corporate organizations, the last stage is impact. So you just start encrypting those files in the organizations, and then the end of that, you can just leave a ransom note. But what Flowmon allows you to do, when some of these steps happens, what it represents in the network behavior is basically an anomaly. And Flowmon solution can actually pick up on these, let's say, tiny footprints of the attacker and provide you that early detection. So from a cybersecurity value standpoint, it allows you to minimize breach impact. So because you can monitor network traffic proactively, you can be alerted on compromises at early stage, and because of that, the breach dwell time can be reduced. You can reduce the number of events because Flowmon connects the dot between seemingly unrelated events and builds you a full picture of security incidents, so you can only focus on the higher priority ones. You can increase technology staff efficiency because you can enable less experienced team members to conduct complex investigations. You can also gain more confidence in responding to incidents because you have noiseless insight and you have hard evidence for the root cause, severity, damage, impacted systems, and remedial action. And because of that, remedial action can be much more accurate. And lastly, you can have that protection across all your hybrid cloud environments. So you can have same level of protection. So I'm going to share one of our customer story where we helped intercept an infected device. So one of our customer who is in the vertical retail has managed to detect an infected device within its network that was gathering passwords and trying to locate other sensitive data exposed to the network. But because of Flowmon, the detection and its detection capabilities, the company was able to resolve the incident within an hour. So if I go back into the ransomware attack stages, we pretty much were able to manage. We were able to detect this anomaly, I would say, in the form of a credential access, where someone was trying to break the password and gathering the information, and gathering the information was basically the collection phase as well. So that's the value that you can think of, that you can see that Flowmon provides. And if we look at it on an return of investment point of view, if we think that an average time to detect a breach is around 56 days, based on the Verizon report, and the average breach costs around $4.5 million, based on the IBM cost of data breach report, we can pretty much imagine, what the cost of a ransomware is, and we also discussed those examples in the beginning. But let's go through this example. How much you can reduce the time? Let's say down to 1 hour, down to 2 hours, because you have that automatic detection and provided by Flowmon. So you give attackers substantially less time to gather the data. You cut down the investigation, let's say down to 1 hour, because you have faster response time. You can see which device was infected, which other system it talked to, basically, and you can minimize the lateral movement. And response can be also much more targeted because of your early detection, and because your fast action. You might not end up recovering 60 devices, but only 5. So if we just calculate that, based on those numbers, roughly the breach cost reduction is from $4.5 million to, let's say, $500,000, 500K, just because on, let's say, the number of resources that is necessary. But I would imagine it's even less. The average Flowmon cost is around $880,000. So the return on the investments in case of Flowmon is one single incident. So with that, I'm coming closer to the end of our webinar, and I would like to invite you to get in touch with us. You can get a 20-minute product demo. We can talk to our pre-sales engineer. We can better understand your environment and provide you the best value. You can also test the environment, test our solution in your environment for yourself. Flowmon is a really easy to deploy solution. You can see actionable intelligence within half an hour from deployment. So I highly encourage you, get in touch with us if you want to increase your cybersecurity posture. And that is the end of my speech. And let me just see if we have had any questions. So so far there are none, but let's give it one more second. And I see something is coming. Can the Flowmon solution be integrated with CM system? Yes, actually it can. So with Flowmon, we provide an open API, so it can easily integrate to your existing security stacks, whether it is your firewall, CM systems, source systems, or others. So because of our early detection, you can, for example, either send all of these detected events to your CM system, or, for example, you can instruct your firewalls to put the infected host into the quarantine, or block the host, and so on. So you have a wide ranges of your response options. Okay, so this is the looks like we've come to an end. So thank you for your attention. I hope you liked the session, and please do get in touch with us. We'll be happy to have a conversation with you. Thank you, and see you on the next one. Bye.